Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the sixth round of US Chess Championships that is on the way in St. Louis, Missouri, capital of US chess. And tension could not be higher after yesterday's dramatic round where one and only Hans Niemann ended Abhimanyu Mishra's 71 game historic streak with computer-like precision. That was one of the best games that I have seen in a long time. You should check it out. I have video uploaded about that game from yesterday. Now in today's round, there was only one decisive result in open section, and luckily for me and a lot of chess fans, in my opinion, it was celebrated by Andy Woodward, 15-year-old grandmaster that is playing his first US Championships. Today he wins his second game in a row. It seems like yesterday's victory gave his tournament second life, so I hope in the remainder of 5 games he can keep this energy going. Now in the women's section, once again we have a change of leaders, and we are going to see the blockbuster matchup. Defending champion Carissa Yip, 2 times in a row going for trifecta, is facing legend of American chess Irina Krush. Let's start with the Andy's game. And it starts with d4, d5, knight f3, e6, g3. Pawn to b6. Slightly unusual move order here. c4 and immediately capturing the pawn. d takes c4. Knight f6 or bishop e7 is more common. In general, early b6 here before black develops the kingside pieces is not as common, but it's not unseen either. Bishop g2, bishop b7, queen a4 check, making sure that black does not try to hold onto this pawn on c4, and after knight d7, bishop goes to g5. Immediately asking the question, how are you going to defend your queen, or are you gonna move it away? Bishop e7, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, and knight bd2. And he wants to capture on c4 without wasting any time. Knight f6, then knight takes c4, short castle, short castle. Somewhat of a standard position in the Catalan opening. Pawn to c5, rook f to d1. Probably slightly favorable for white here, but nothing crazy after rook a to c1. I think white pieces are a little more active, but black's position is also very solid so far. Rook to c7, queen a3, putting the pin on this diagonal. Rook a to c8, knight goes to e5. Light squared bishops are being traded off the board, and now queen to f8. I think computer was suggesting that bringing king closer to defend this queen would have made more sense and would have been better. After queen f8, knight takes d7, and we have first real inaccuracy in the game. Taking on d7 with the rook would have been better, and the reason for it is after knight d7, d takes c5. Now black has to make some concessions. For example, if you take with the queen, queen takes c5. If you take with the knight, there is knight to d6. Let's say you move the rook somewhere else, and now there's going to be b4. Knight a6, a3, and look at that poor knight. Knight on the rim is always green, as the saying goes here. So even though material is equal and pawn structure is very much symmetrical here, still this knight makes black's position very difficult to play. And added with the fact that white has this knight on d6 and control over 2 open files here, white is cruising. So that was one. Now if black takes with the b pawn, then the pawn structure has been weakened, so still white has a very comfortable play. And obviously you can't capture with the rook because the knight is in. So you have to take with the knight. Now knight goes to d6, and after rook d8, knight goes to b5, attacking the rook and the a7 pawn. Rook goes to d7, rook takes d7, rook takes d7, and b4. Obviously not knight takes a7 immediately, because there would be check and double attack on this knight on a7, So first b4, knight moves away. The only square, or I guess it can also go to b7, but only two squares it can go would be on this diagonal, which is going to block the check. So on the next move, white is going to be able to capture the pawn on a7. So white simply wins a pawn, and Darius also goes into time travel here. This actually has been his issue for a very long time. I have played him a couple of times, and he likes to think. There are some players that like to take their time. And this was the case also, as you can see. Black has 2 minutes at the moment on the clock, and still about 20 moves to make, 17 moves to make. So that is very hard, especially added with the fact that white is pawn up now, and is a big favorite here to win, and that is exactly what happens. Queen d3, rook c5, after knight c4, a4, dislodging this knight, and there goes down second pawn, and 30-minute advantage on the clock, almost 28 minutes. Knight retreats back, then e4, and the rest of the conversion here was relatively smooth. Well, with 1 minute on the clock, even with time on the clock, I think this would be borderline impossible, but you could still hope for the opponent's mistake. Here, the chances of that happening is basically non-existent. Very nice finish after rook c2, b7 here. You cannot take, or I guess you can take, but white will also take the queen while promoting to a new one. So after b7, Darius resigns. So I think officially Andy has, well, he's very close actually, 25.98 at the moment. I was going to say officially he has crossed 2600, but I'm sure that is not in a very distant future. So I just hope that he can keep playing at this level in the remainder 5 rounds. Quickly, let's take a look at the standings. Fabiano is still leading Wesley and Hans with 4 out of 6 games. And then we have Levon, who is half point behind them, and then 3 players, among them Andy Woodward with 3 out of 6. So anything is still in the air here. So this foreshadows very interesting following rounds. Andy is going to be playing Wesley So with black colors in the next round, so that is going to be a hard matchup. Hans is playing Fabiano. Hans is with white tomorrow, so that is also going to be a blockbuster matchup. Let's get into the women's section. Let's turn this off here and turn on the evaluation bar here. Carissa is playing with black colors, and she chooses to go for the King's Indian defense. We have standard King's Indian on the board, orthodox variation. Pawn goes to e5. White immediately closes the center with d5, which is the Petrosian variation, or Petrosian variation, however you pronounce it. Now, if you are seeing this for the first time, this pawn is not hanging, because after knight takes e5 here, there is going to be knight takes e4, and black regains the pawn back. If you think that knight f7 here is a smart move to win the pawn, not so much. Let's say if you take king f7, knight e4, but black is going to have an intermediate move, bishop c3 with the check, and then capturing the knight back on f7. Okay, so pawn is not hanging, long story short. So white closes the center here with d5, pawn goes to a5, h3, knight goes to a6, bishop g5, queen slides to e8 to get out of the pin, and then brings this knight to d7. In this variation, white wants to play g4 to stop this f5, but let's see how effective that is going to be. Now, black has been building this outpost on c5 for quite some time, so she lends this d7 knight there, or kingside knight, on c5, and after rook g1 slides the king on h8 to get ready for f5. Even though the king is going to be open up, Carissa is not worried about it. Still says that my kingside position is better than yours, so I want to play f5 no matter what. Apparently knight f5 was somewhat of an inaccuracy here. White wants to probably somehow kick this knight away with maybe like b3, a3, then rook b1, b4, but that is half of the lifetime. So understandably, that was not played here. So knight f1 was played, which allows now f5, queen to d2, trying to maybe long castle here, but a knight goes to b4. Apparently computer likes f4 here, but knight b4 I think is a very human move here, basically saying that if you are going to castle long, there is a very nice tactic here. Knight takes a2, because look at your king and the queen. If you take there, there is a forky fork. So long castle is not possible, therefore bishop e3 was played, maybe trying to trade on c5, but black takes on e4. I don't mind an extra pawn at all, says Carissa. And after knight g3, knight d3 check. Bishop takes d3, e takes d3, queen takes d3. And if white had one more move at her disposal here to play knight e4, that position would be completely fine for white. However, the tempo is of crucial importance in a lot of King's Indian positions, so that's exactly what happens here. e4, opening up this bishop. So this dark square bishop usually in King's Indian is make or break kind of piece. A lot of times it ends up passive and then black is very sad, but if it gets active, then there will be some serious counterplay going. Okay, so knight takes e4, queen goes to e5. Now rook goes to b1, simply bishop to d7. So as you can see, this was the positional pawn sacrifice, but the diagonal opens up, basically making long castle impossible there, connecting the rooks. And next rook a to e8 is coming. Apparently, white's best bet would have been to challenge black's activity with f4 and then play something like king f2 and maybe go king g2. But if you play here, retreating the knight back, this is a very difficult position to play. Bishop here and takes on f4. I guess if you go queen d4 check, we can go back bishop e5. So very messy. So as you can see, Carissa chose her battles very strategically. Okay, she wanted to make Irina uncomfortable and play this dynamic position. f3 to defend it, but now there's going to be queen h2 check, and after knight f2, bishop h6. Look at the poor white king and look at all black pieces praying down on the e file, and this is pretty much game over very soon, because after g5, bishop retreats back, queen h4 here, bishop f5, attacking the rook, then queen gets back to attack the bishop on e3, and after trading bishop for the knight here, queen e4 I think would be good too, but that trades the queens on the board, so there is no need for black to trade queens at the moment. White king being so weak, so takes on b2, queen c3. After e5, simply queen takes e5. If not e5, then there is no way to defend this c4 pawn with a check. That also means that the e4 pawn is going to fall, so it is a game over. Rook f4 traps the queen. You cannot take because simply queen takes f4 and bishop is pinned. If you play rook g4, then you are giving up the bishop on e3 with the check, and again, it is a game over. So let's take a look at the standings after this game. Anna Zatonsky, many times US chess champion, also won her game and caught up with the leaders. Here now she is sharing the lead with Alice Lee. I have played against Alice, and she is very tough. She's been struggling to show those results at the US Championships, but maybe this is going to be the one. We shall see. Also, do not underestimate Carissa. Carissa also had her second win in a row, defeating Anna Sargsyan in the previous round, the leader of the tournament in the last round, and today Irina Krush, who was also close to the leaders with 3 out of 5. Okay, so as you can see, 2 leaders with 4 out of 6, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players with 3.5, trailing with half a point. So basically, from first to 7th place, the difference is only half a point. As you can tell, anything can happen here. Kadev Abrahamian, the fighter, a true fighter, who recently actually crossed 2400 and made international master. Also Jennifer Yu, former US champion. Also Anna Sargsyan, another fighter. So Paikidze Nazi, also multiple times US champion. So the final rounds are going to be very exciting. Make sure you don't miss them. And if you like my commentary, please do let me know. Subscribe, like, and I will see you in round 7.